The knock came again, harder this time. A slow, heavy thud that echoed through the apartment like a warning neither of us were ready for. Liam shot up from the couch so fast the cushion bounced, his chest rose and fell in uneven breaths, and he backed toward the hallway, eyes glued to the door as if expecting it to burst open. "Don't move," he whispered, but I was already frozen. Another knock, this one softer, almost teasing. The kind of knock someone uses when they know you're scared. The rain outside had turned into a steady roar, smearing the streetlights into blurry streaks of gold. The apartment, usually warm and familiar, now felt like a trap, quiet, dim, tense. The shadows stretched longer, darker, swallowing the corners of the room. I swallowed hard. "Liam, is it him?" "I don't know." But his voice said otherwise. He stepped forward slowly, shoulders tense, jaw clenched, every movement radiated fear and something else, anger, maybe. Or guilt. Something thick enough to feel in the air. "Stay behind me," he murmured. His protectiveness should have comforted me, but instead it tightened the knot in my stomach. He wasn't only scared for himself. He was scared for me. The knocking stopped. Silence, rain, our breathing, then a faint scraping sound near the bottom of the door, like someone's fingernail dragging across the wood. I saw Liam's throat bob as he swallowed. "Who is it?" he called out, voice sharp but trembling at the edges. No answer, just another slow scrape, longer this time. "I swear if this is some kind of joke," Liam started, but the sentence broke in the middle. He sounded small, cornered. I took one step closer to him. "Maybe it's not him," I whispered, though even I didn't believe it. "Maybe it's just a neighbor." "No," Liam shook his head. "Neighbors don't knock like that." "He does." There it was again, that flicker of shame in his eyes. Guilt. As if he'd brought this danger into our home. As if he'd invited it. "Liam," I said quietly, "whatever happened tonight, it's not your fault." He looked at me, and for a moment his fear cracked open, revealing something even more vulnerable. "You don't know everything," he murmured. A pause, long enough to make my skin prickle. "Then tell me," I said softly. His jaw tightened. "If I tell you, you won't look at me the same. Try me." Before he could respond, the doorknob twitched, not turning, just testing. Liam's breath hitched sharply. "He's trying to see if it's unlocked," he whispered. I felt my pulse hammering in my throat. "It's locked, right?" He didn't answer immediately. "Liam," I said again, louder this time, "tell me you locked it." I think I did." "You think?" But I didn't get time to finish the sentence because the knob jerked, hard, then again, harder. Metal rattled against metal, shaking the entire doorframe. Liam reached out and grabbed my wrist, not roughly, not in panic, but with a desperate steadiness that made my breath catch. "We need to go to my room," he said. "Now." He pulled me down the hallway, and for once I didn't question him. My heartbeat was too loud, too fast, drowning out everything else. The apartment felt like it was shrinking around us. When we reached his room, he shut the door quietly and pressed his ear against it, listening. The knocking had stopped again, but silence felt worse. "Why is this happening?" I whispered. Liam looked at me in the dim lamplight, his face pale, shadows cutting across his cheekbones. "Because," he said slowly, "I didn't tell you the whole truth about tonight." I felt a cold shiver move up my spine. "What truth?" He rubbed his hands over his face, pacing. "He didn't just talk to me. Or follow me. He said things, personal things. Things he shouldn't know." "What things?" Liam stopped pacing. His shoulders trembled as he exhaled. "He said he knew I wasn't being honest with myself." I swallowed. "About what?" "A beat, then, about who I want." My chest tightened, and he said I keep pretending I don't feel something for. Liam's voice cracked. "Someone I live with." I froze. The room felt too small, too warm, too expectant. "He said that." I whispered. Liam didn't look at me at first. When he finally did, his eyes were glassy, conflicted, but certain. He said, "I look at you the way he looks at me." The air left my lungs. He took a shaky step toward me, and I didn't know what to do. He continued. "Because I don't want him looking at me like that." But I couldn't tell him he was wrong about the other part. My heartbeat thundered. "What other part?" I whispered. He closed the distance between us slowly, as if waiting to see if I'd step away. "I didn't. That I've been lying," he whispered, not to him, but to myself. My breath caught. "Liam," He lifted a trembling hand, stopping just short of touching my face, not crossing the line, but close enough that I could feel heat radiating between us. "You don't understand," he said softly, voice breaking. I didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to risk anything. But when he said he saw the way I look at you, his chest rose shakily. He wasn't wrong. My throat tightened painfully. "I shouldn't feel this way," he whispered. "I know I shouldn't. Not about you." My pulse stumbled. "Why not?" "Because you're my roommate," he said. "Because you trust me. Because I promised myself I'd never let anything mess up what we have." His hand finally brushed my cheek, just barely, like a question he didn't know how to ask. "But I can't pretend anymore," he whispered. "Not after tonight." The door of the apartment slammed loudly. We both jolted, footsteps slow, deliberate, walking down the hallway toward Liam's room. Liam's eyes widened with panic. "He got in," he whispered. The footsteps stopped right outside the bedroom door, then a soft, chilling whisper through the crack under the door. "Liam, I know you're not alone." Liam grabbed my arm, pulling me closer as the doorknob began to turn. "Listen to me," he said quickly, voice trembling. "If anything happens," the knob jerked violently, "there's something I need to tell you first." The door shuddered. "Something I should have told you a long time ago." Another violent twist of the knob. "Something about how I feel about you." The door started to open and Liam whispered, "I'm not straight, not when it comes to you." The door burst open, the light went out. We were swallowed by darkness. If you want the falling action, 600 to 800 words, next, just say, "Continue with falling action."
The rain settled into a steady rhythm, like a patient listener that refused to leave. Officer Hale stood in my living room, his presence turning the familiar into something uncertain, like my own home had decided to become a stranger for the night. That I gestured toward the couch. "You can sit, if you want." He hesitated, scanning the room again, his eyes landing on the framed photos above the fireplace, my sister and I at the beach, my father in an old work uniform, a family that looked simpler than it felt. Then he nodded and sat, careful, as if he didn't want to disturb the air itself. That I took the armchair across from him, my mug of tea still in my hands even though I'd forgotten to drink it. The warmth seeped into my palms, grounding me. "So," I said, trying to sound casual. "What's the report?" "Some noise complaints," he replied. "And a few calls about a suspicious car circling the block. Probably nothing, but we like to be thorough." His voice was calm, practiced. But there was something else there too, an edge of curiosity, maybe. Or maybe I was imagining it. The clock on the wall ticked loudly between us, every second stretching out like it wanted to be noticed. I became aware of my breathing, of the way my foot tapped against the floor, of how his eyes flicked to the movement and then back to my face. "I've lived here my whole life," I said, more to fill the silence than anything else. "It's usually quiet. Boring, even. Quiet neighborhoods hide the most interesting stories," he said, a faint smile touching the corner of his mouth. The comment lingered in the air. I laughed softly, unsure whether he was joking. Outside, a gust of wind rattled the windows. For a moment, it sounded like someone whispering just beyond the glass. That I stood up. "Do you want some coffee? Or anything?" He shook his head. "I shouldn't." "Still on duty?" I nodded, though part of me felt oddly disappointed. I walked into the kitchen anyway, pretending to rinse my mug. The sink's faucet hissed, and I stared at my reflection in the dark window above it. My own eyes looked wider than usual, like I was bracing for something I couldn't see yet, When I came back, he was standing, examining a small scratch on the wall near the door. My dog, Max, padded in behind him, tail wagging cautiously. Officer Hale crouched down, letting Max sniff his hand before giving him a gentle scratch behind the ears. "He's friendly," I said. "So am I," he replied, glancing up at me. My chest tightened in a way I didn't want to analyze. Max wandered off, leaving us standing a little too close to each other in the narrow space between the couch and the door. I could smell the rain on his jacket, mixed with something faintly metallic and clean. "Your father works nights?" he asked. "Yeah. Factory across town. Been there since before I was born. Must get lonely." I shrugged. "You get used to it." He studied my face, like he was trying to read something beneath the words. I felt exposed in a way I couldn't explain. A sound came from upstairs, a soft thud, like something shifting or falling. We both froze. "What was that?" he asked, his tone changing instantly, sharper, alert. I don't know," I said. "Probably the house settling." He moved past me, quiet and controlled, heading for the stairs. I followed, my heart pounding loud enough that I was sure he could hear it. The hallway upstairs was dim, the single bulb at the end casting long shadows that stretched toward us like reaching hands. My sister's door was closed, my father's room empty and dark. The bathroom door creaked slightly as Officer Hale nudged it open, checking inside. Nothing. The tension didn't leave when we went back downstairs. It clung to me, heavier now, like a question that refused to be answered. "Sorry about that," I said. "It's my job to worry," he replied. "Even when there's nothing to find." We sat again, closer this time, the space between us reduced to a thin line I didn't know how to cross or retreat from. "You ever think about leaving this place?" he asked. "All the time," I admitted. "But it's complicated." He nodded, like he understood more than I'd said. "It usually is." The rain outside slowed, the drops less frantic now, but the air inside felt charged, like the moment before lightning strikes. I noticed the way his hand rested on his knee, the way his shoulders relaxed just a fraction, like he was letting himself be off duty for a moment. "Why become a cop?" I asked. He hesitated. "I wanted to make things feel safer. For people who don't always feel like they belong." The words hit something deep inside me. I swallowed, unsure how to respond. Another sound, this time from the front porch. A faint scrape, like footsteps on wet concrete. We both stood at once. He moved to the door, peering through the window. I stood behind him, close enough to feel the warmth of his back. "There's no one there," he said slowly, but as he turned back to me, his eyes held a question neither of us dared to speak. The calm of the evening felt like a fragile illusion now, one wrong move away from shattering. And as the rain finally stopped outside, leaving the world eerily still, I couldn't shake the feeling that this visit, this moment, was only the beginning of something far more complicated than a routine knock at the door. What was really circling my block that night? And why did it feel like it wasn't just a car?
The silence after that moment felt heavier than anything I had ever carried. It clung to the walls, to the air between us, to my skin. I could still feel the warmth of his breath on my cheek, a ghost of something that almost happened, or maybe something I imagined because I wanted it too much. He stepped back first. A soft, careful movement. Like if he moved too fast, the world would acknowledge what nearly exploded between us. I watched the shape of his shoulders as he exhaled. He wasn't looking at me. He kept his gaze low, fixed on the floor, as if the truth might spill out if he met my eyes. Did you? I started, but the words died halfway. His fingers trembled when he rubbed the back of his neck. It was the smallest detail, but I noticed it like it was highlighted, circled, underlined. He was shaking, and somehow, that scared me more than anything. I shouldn't have, he murmured, voice thin, frayed around the edges. I don't know what that was. The room felt too small. I could hear the electricity buzzing in the walls, the distant city noise outside, the uneven rhythm of his breathing. My chest tightened. I didn't know what to say that wouldn't make everything shatter. Part of me wanted to step toward him, place a hand on his arm, tell him it was okay, that whatever had pulled us together wasn't wrong. But another part, a cautious and frightened part, whispered that maybe touching him now would push him over a line he wasn't ready to cross. He turned away, running both hands through his hair. I'm not like this, he said, barely audible. I'm not. I swallowed hard. The word gay hovered unspoken, thick in the space between us. He didn't say it, but I could hear how close he was to choking on it. My heartbeat echoed in my ears. Maybe it was me. Maybe I imagined everything. Maybe I read him wrong from the beginning, the lingering glances, the too long hugs, the late-night confessions whispered in the dark. Maybe I had created a story out of loneliness, but then I remembered the way he leaned in first. How his fingers brushed my jaw like he was memorizing its shape. The way his eyes softened, widened, pleaded, that wasn't imagination. I took one slow breath, grounding myself. Look, we don't have to define anything, I said quietly. You don't have to explain. I need to know if you're okay. He froze. His back straightened. For a moment, he didn't breathe, then he whispered, I don't know. The honesty in those words hit me harder than any confession could have. He finally turned, and when he did, his eyes were glassy, not exactly tears, but close enough that I felt something twist inside me. His expression was a storm, fear, confusion, longing, anger at himself. It all lived there at once. I took a half step toward him. He didn't move away, but he didn't move closer either. We stood like that, suspended between two decisions neither of us had the courage to make. His voice cracked slightly when he spoke again. Everything's different now. I nodded. Yeah. And I don't know what you want from me. The truth? I wasn't sure either. I want you to be honest, I said. Even if it scares you. He let out a shaky laugh, not happy, not sad, just broken. Everything scares me right now. He sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on his knees, head hanging. The mattress dipped under his weight, and something about that simple movement, something so normal, made the moment even more unbearable. I slowly sat beside him, leaving a careful few inches between us. I could feel the heat of his body radiating toward me, like a magnet constantly pulling yet refusing to close the distance. He didn't look at me. Not once. Instead, he whispered, Did you want it to happen? I closed my eyes for a moment. There it was, the question that could break everything open or seal it shut forever. When I answered, my voice came out soft but steady. Yes. His fingers twitched. A sharp breath escaped him. The room felt like it tilted. He didn't pull away, but he didn't respond either. We just sat there, breathing the same tense air, two people trapped between what almost happened and what might still happen, if either of us dared to move. A car horn blared outside. A pipe rattled in the wall. Life kept going, unaware of the war happening in that tiny room. He whispered, barely a breath, I don't know what to do now. I swallowed. We don't have to decide tonight. He nodded slowly, but his jaw clenched like he was holding back 1,000 words. The distance between us remained, small, but impossibly wide. The moment lingered, unresolved, unfinished. A half-open door neither of us stepped through, and somewhere inside me, a quiet fear formed. What if he never does? If you'd like, I can now write. White heavy check mark the climax, white heavy check mark the resolution, white heavy check mark visual prompts for this section, white heavy check mark title plus description plus hashtags. Just tell me what you want next.
The message sat on my screen long after the glow dimmed, like it was waiting for me to make the first move. I didn't reply right away. I paced the living room instead, my footsteps soft against the rug, my thoughts loud enough to drown out everything else. The house felt different now, charged, restless, like it had absorbed the echo of his presence and refused to let it go. I glanced at the front door more than once, half expecting another knock, another interruption that would give me an excuse to stop thinking and start reacting. I finally typed, "I'm okay. Thanks for checking." 3 dots appeared almost instantly. Then disappeared. Then reappeared. Good. I didn't mean to cross a line back there. My chest tightened. I sank onto the couch, the same spot where we'd sat too close, where the air had felt too thin. "I don't know where the line is," I wrote, then hesitated before sending it. The reply took longer this time. "Neither do I." I stared at the words until they blurred, my reflection ghosting across the dark screen. A laugh escaped me, soft, nervous, almost disbelieving. This wasn't supposed to happen. He was a uniform, a role, a figure meant to pass through my life and leave nothing behind but a story to tell later. Instead, he felt like a question I couldn't stop asking. The next few days passed in a strange, suspended calm. My father came home, my sister returned, the house filled with the usual noise and movement. Life tried to settle back into its routine. But every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. Sometimes it was him, short messages, simple check-ins, observations about the weather, about the late-night coffee he regretted drinking on shift, about how quiet my street looked from the end of the block. Nothing overt. Nothing that could be pointed to and labeled, and yet, everything felt loaded. One evening, a few nights later, I heard a car pull up outside. Not the familiar rumble of my father's truck. Not the chatter of my sister's friends. Something slower. Deliberate. I peeked through the curtains, his patrol car idled at the curb, lights off. My stomach flipped. I told myself it meant nothing. Just coincidence. He had a job. A route. 1,000 reasons to be on my street that didn't involve me. The engine shut off. There was a pause. A long one. Then my phone buzzed. "I'm nearby," the message read. Didn't plan this. Just wanted to say hi. I stood in the middle of the room, torn between the door and the safety of staying exactly where I was. My reflection in the dark window looked like someone else, someone braver, maybe. Or just more reckless. I typed, "You don't have to." 3 dots. Gone. Back again, I know. A knock followed. Softer than the first time. Almost hesitant. When I opened the door, the night air rushed in, cool and sharp. He stood there without the rain this time, without the urgency of a call on the radio. Just him, out of uniform, jacket zipped up, hands tucked into his pockets like he didn't quite know what to do with them. "Hey," he said. "Hey," I echoed. We didn't move. Didn't step aside. Didn't cross the threshold. The space between us felt like a fragile boundary, one that meant more now than it had before. "I shouldn't be here," he said quietly. "I didn't ask you to be," I replied, just as softly. A small, almost sad smile flickered across his face. I know. The porch light hummed above us. Somewhere down the street, a dog barked. A car passed, its headlights sweeping over us like a brief, revealing spotlight that he took a breath, then another, like he was steadying himself. I keep thinking about that night, he admitted. About how easy it felt to forget everything else. My heart thudded in my chest. That's dangerous, I said. Yeah, he agreed. That's why I'm standing out here instead of in there. For a moment, I thought he might reach for me. Or I might reach for him. The thought alone sent a tremor through me. Instead, he stepped back. I just wanted to see if you were real, he said. Or if I imagined all of it. I didn't know how to answer that. He nodded once, like he'd expected that. Take care, he added, already turning away. As he walked back toward his car, I felt a strange mix of relief and loss settle in my chest. The doorframe was cold against my hand as I leaned there, watching his taillights disappear down the street. I closed the door slowly, the quiet of the house folding back around me, and for the first time since that first knock, I wasn't sure which side of the threshold I wanted to be on anymore.